let's take the step back view now. I mean, a month or two ago when this came up, people thought, you know, kind of poo-pooed the idea that this would wind up in Wisconsin. Now it's happening. Is this a coup for the state? You know, what, how, what, I mean, for people who would look at it, open some eyes, I would imagine, to what's happening in Wisconsin.
Well, it could be economically a coup for the state if it happens as Governor Walker and indeed President Trump have predicted it would happen. 13,000 new jobs in the state, if that's what it ends up being 6, 8, 10 years from now, is a big deal. I would add politically, we'll get into this a bit more later, I think it's a big deal for Governor Walker and at almost, in my view, no risk to him. But the questions that are still out there, which won't be answered for quite a while, are will Foxconn actually create as many jobs as has been predicted? They've automated their plants in China tremendously. I was speaking with a journalist from Taiwan recently, and her view is that the plant here is sort of an experiment in a way to see if it's a great equalizer. Automation can make the costs of running the plant here relatively equal to the cost of running a plant with cheaper Asian labor.
Yeah, and Patrick, can you talk a little bit about how, I mean, there's concern among the Democrats and others about how closely this will be watched, or how will WEDC do with its efforts, if this just jumps things to the Supreme Court and through the DNR. I mean, what's the concern there in terms of the normal regulatory and, you know, statutory sort of steps that are going to be, you know, taken away in this process?
Yeah, you know, I think Republicans were a little surprised at how unified Democrats were against this incentive package. They thought they'd get quite a few Democratic votes. They really didn't. They got them from Democrats who were right in the immediate area and none of the others. For Democrats, they're concerned about the cost. They're also very concerned about the changes to the environmental rules. Basically, the legislation says that many of the requirements that would normally be in place for the environment for this project don't apply. So they don't have to get permits to build in waterways. They don't have to get permits to build in wetlands. They don't have to do an environmental impact statement. Democrats are very concerned about that, and they're very concerned that it will be used as a model to just wipe out those rules for other businesses. So I think that's their chief concerns here.
Greg, if I can jump in on one thing too, the deal is structured so that it's $1.5 billion for the jobs themselves. That's pay as you go, so no money goes out until those jobs are created. But there's $1.35 billion that's for plant and equipment. As of now, as Patrick has written, there's no minimum job requirement for that money. So conceivably, and this is a risk, I talked to someone yesterday who is very close to this deal, who acknowledged there's about $1 billion at risk here that isn't tied to any job creation. So the risk is that Foxconn grabs those plant and equipment incentives legitimately, and in fact there'll be an economic benefit to the construction phase, no doubt about it, but then doesn't employ the plant in the way that they say they will. And so the cost per job for taxpayers goes up pretty enormously at that point.